When someone close to you dies, the first thing you think about doing is making funeral plans. But there are so many other tasks that need to be completed within the first week and month of their passing. Today we're talking things that need to be done when someone dies. After someone is being declared dead, the people closest to them will need to face many boring practical tasks along with funeral preparations. In this video, we won't be talking about how to arrange a funeral because there are so many cultural, religious and practical variants within that task. Instead, we're going to be talking about the boring legal, financial and day-to-day tasks that most Australians will need to do after a death. And there are a lot. I have based this on a single adult with no kids because they're the ones that are going to have the most practical tasks that need to be resolved after their death. If that's not your loved one, ignore those parts where they aren't relevant. With this thing in mind, here we go. Critical tasks. These are the tasks that should be your first priority and need to be completed within the first couple of days after someone dies. The very first thing that needs to be done is to retrieve any pets the deceased may have had and contact a locksmith or security service if emergency services had to force their way into the home. Once those two things are completed, you need to locate the deceased will and/or funeral insurance plan. Some people will have this, some people will not, and some people you have no idea about. It may be in an obvious spot, it may not, so go through everything. Remember when we did that video on wills? This is that plan in action. Once you find the will, notify the executor and they will apply for probate after the funeral. If you can't find the will or you know they didn't have one, you will need to apply for a letter of administration after the funeral. Next is to plan the funeral as you see fit and notify the deceased friends, family, employer, educational institution and government departments. More on that information in a bit. From here, you will need to cancel any memberships, subscriptions, plans that are regularly withdrawing funds from the deceased bank account. If you are able to get a hold of their bank statement, that would give you a good idea of where to start. Now, this all sounds like a lot, and it is, because realistically it all needs to be done within a week or less of their death. I'm not going to give you the well-being speech because it should be obvious. So if possible, delegate these tasks and do what you need to do to look after yourself during this process. Government. First up on your list of notifications should be government departments. Usually the funeral home will notify births, deaths and marriages registry, but if you're not going through a funeral home, then you will need to do this. You can't retrieve a death certificate until the death has been registered, and you will need the death certificate in order to be able to cancel most of the accounts that we're about to talk about. And with that in mind, next up is notifying any government departments that the deceased used. The main departments to notify, because they will be a massive pain in your ass later if you don't, is Centrelink, the tax office, Medicare, child support and NDIS if they use them. Bear in mind, someone will need to complete the deceased last tax return because what's a bit more paperwork when you're grieving, right? Legal. We have already mentioned that your first priority should be finding the deceased will and/or funeral insurance because a lot of what comes after relies on the information that those give. Additionally to that, if your loved one dies without a will and you have been given a letter of administration by the courts, you will eventually need to consult a lawyer regarding their estate. Now, this is particularly important if they own property or vehicle or if they were in the middle of any court proceedings. Lastly, it is worth noting that if you are the executor of the will or have a letter of administration, then it is your responsibility to surrender all registered weapons that the deceased may have had. Yes, there are legal weapons in Australia, and no, the police will not come out to collect them for you. You'll have to take them to the station yourself. And for the love of God, call them first and give them the heads up. Health. The health category is probably the smallest one for most people. Make sure to cancel their private health fund and any gym memberships. Additionally, while not necessary, it would be best to notify your loved one's GP and any other medical specialists that they may have been seeing regularly. Finances. Your loved one's finances are probably going to need a bit of planning to attack. Firstly, don't shut down their bank account immediately, and most banks won't let you do it anyway until after the probate has been sorted. As an executor or administrator, you need it open in order to use those funds to pay for the funeral and any other debts they may have had. Otherwise, you are responsible for paying those bills. Only once all debts have been paid off, and that could take a while, should you shut down any bank accounts. Additionally to this, you will need to shut down any other credit or savings accounts, insurance policies, travel cards, shares, superannuation, some of which could be used to help pay for the funeral, and any foreign pensions that they may be receiving. Home. Are you still with me? We're getting there. First thing on the home front, you may need to arrange for biohazard cleaning services depending on the circumstances of your loved one's death. They are easy to find online, but emergency services will probably lead you in the right direction, and it's best that this is done sooner rather than later. Okay, so home tasks really depend on whether they rented or owned and what type of property it was. First up, notify the electricity, water, gas and internet companies, along with the council, shire or strata company. You may need to pay off any fees required here. As said earlier, make sure to cancel their car contents home insurance policies, cancel their driver's license and transfer the vehicle's registration. Now let's talk mobile phones. Back in the day, everyone used to write down phone numbers in an easily accessible place, so notifying friends and family wasn't much of an issue. But now we have mobile phones, and here's the problem. Most people have a lock on them, and phone companies don't unlock them for anything. There are court cases of parents whose child have died of suicide begging Apple or Samsung to unlock the kids' phones, and they've refused. Some mobile providers will try to unlock it, but it's not really within their power to do so, and that often results in a lot of the phone's information being lost. This is something to keep in mind. It just might not be possible. Online. Finally, onto the online stuff, and this is where you really hope they'd left their password somewhere. The first thing you really want to shut down is any of their online payment accounts, like PayPal and Afterpay. Then, like we said earlier, anything that is regularly withdrawing from their bank account. So streaming services like Netflix, computer software subscriptions like Microsoft, any adult-friendly entertainment subscriptions, and online shopping accounts. You'll be amazed just how many subscriptions, memberships, plans we all accumulate over a lifetime, especially as technology grows. Last is their email and social media accounts. You can leave them, but without them being regularly accessed, they are more prone to cybersecurity issues. Social media accounts such as Facebook can either be shut down completely, but you will lose all photos and information, or you can tell Facebook to memorialize the page. The same goes for most other social media accounts. However, if your loved one had a LinkedIn account, it is strongly recommended that you shut the account down completely for security and identity reasons. All of these online services will provide you with the process of cancelling or memorialising the accounts if you look in their help or frequently asked questions page. We made it! I know I harp on and on this channel about getting your affairs in order and all that, but it's only when you're on the other side of it and have to deal with the resulting mess of it all that you start to understand how important it is. Now, of course, all this is dependent on the person's circumstances, but I've included a PDF list in the description below to give you a bit of a reminder should you happen to need it. Remember, most of this stuff can be done over a month period, but some of it needs to be done quite quickly. Prioritize and delegate if you can. Thanks for joining me and Gary here at Taboo Education. If you found this helpful, please share, like, and comment. Subscribe for more videos. That's all from us. Now go talk death.